Today on the Life Science Success Podcast, I'm interviewing Leslie Loveless. Leslie is the CEO of Sloane Partners. Her career journey has led her from Takeda Pharmaceuticals to Quest, and now as CEO of Sloane Partners. Sloane Partners is a premier executive search firm that specializes in recruitment for life sciences, biotechnology, diagnostics, data and analytics, and laboratory testing services industries, with offices nationwide, including Boston, Washington, DC, San Francisco, San Diego, and Research Triangle Park. Thank you, Leslie, for joining me today. Can you tell listeners a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely, Don. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'll just start with a brief introduction. As you said, my name is Leslie. I'm the CEO of Sloane Partners. We are an executive search firm, really focused in serving early stage and growth stage companies. I've been with the company going on 15 years, and I can't believe I'm saying that, but it is in fact true. And it has been quite a wonderful, amazing ride. Just on the personal front, I am based in the Midwest. I'm married, and I have a daughter who will be 14 on Friday. So,
wow. Yeah, you're getting to that stage in life where they definitely need to start planning kind of their next steps as well. Does she have an interest in biotechnology for the future?
She is a math wizard, and she believes that she will, her dream is that she will go to MIT and to engineering school. So that's what she tells me, and I'm all for that if she can make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So in your career, I heard that you started out actually as a school teacher. So after being a school teacher, what led you to work in life sciences?
Sure. So it definitely is not a traditional path to where I am. And I always joke, I work in the sciences, but I am definitely not a scientist. I have an undergrad and master's in English, and I can diagram the heck out of a sentence, but the science and math side of things, not so much. But anyway, I did love teaching, and there's nothing like being with students and feeling like you're making headway and having a positive impact on their lives. But I think I got to a place where I just felt like I couldn't see myself going into a classroom and spending my day in a classroom all day, every day for the rest of my life. And I tried to figure out where else I might, be able to take the skills that I had developed in front of parents and other teachers and students. And, in sales, it's a lot about building relationships. It's a lot about education, whether it's a product or a service or, whatever the case may be. It's about teaching, about what you have to offer. And so that was something that I think worked pretty well as far as what my experiences had been to date, and pretty transferable actually to what you experience as a salesperson. So that's sort of what led me there. And it's just been one exciting thing after another ever since.
Yeah. So, I mean, it seems like there are a lot of transferable skills, right? Between, training as well as sales, where you can spend a little bit of time investigating and questioning, different things and concepts. It seems like you also further on in your career, right? Both at Takeda as well as Ameripath, you are a sales trainer in both of those roles. So, tell us a little bit about that as well.
Yes, so that it definitely was coming full circle back to teaching. It was just, teaching adults and educating them about the products in the portfolio and how to talk about the company and the process of selling and, all of those sorts of activities. But it was still teaching. And it was really interesting because when I went to Quest, I actually didn't end up being in sales for very long at all. Because I went to training class and they didn't have a trainer, and it just, sort of was kismet, I think, that it worked out that I went there at the time that I did. And I enjoyed it very much. It was a really great experience working with adults and teaching in a different format.
Yeah. So how do you make the transition then? So you were, kind of in education, then you were in, um, you know, more or less sales training, or also in sales. And then now all of a sudden you're focused much more on recruiting. So how did you make that transition, and what sort of led you to Sloan Partners?
Yes, so connections make everything happen. And so I'll go back to how I ended up at Quest Diagnostics and tell you about Adam Sloan, who is the founder of Sloan Partners. So this was way back when Adam was just starting Sloan Partners 21 years ago. And I was one of the early people that he placed in a position. And we hit it off and stayed in contact. And there were different periods of time where we engaged over the course of a few years. And at one point, he asked me if I would ever consider, moving over to a startup and doing something different, like recruiting. And at the time, I didn't really know how I felt about that because I hadn't done that before. But then there came a point in my life where I really had to think about things differently. And that was when I adopted my daughter. So my daughter that's 14 that I mentioned at the beginning, she is adopted from Guatemala. And when I was in the process of adopting her, it became very clear to me that it wasn't going to work for me to live out of my suitcase week in and week out. And Adam and I reconnected, and the rest is history. So I've been here ever since.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to see how you build your network, and then how you can leverage that, into the future. And I do think our networks are critical, really, for anyone in the space, especially, as you're trying to look for, new opportunities and new situations that might actually, overall help your overall work-life balance as well.
Absolutely. And, we've built a virtual company at Sloan Partners, and we have people coast to coast, a lot of people in the core markets of life sciences and healthcare, and it's worked really well. And I can't stress enough how lucky I feel that I had that relationship with Adam, and that he and I found each other at a point in life where it was an amazing career opportunity for me, and also worked in terms of supporting my desire to adopt a child and to be a mom. So it was just a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit over to the clients of Sloan Partners. So overall, I've looked on your website. I've seen that you have clients like Path Group and Mammoth Biosciences. Definitely clients that people that listen to the podcast should know. So what defines a typical client for Sloan Partners?
Sure. So we work in life sciences and healthcare, and those two sectors have a lot of verticals underneath them that put different types of companies in one category or the other. And so when I break down the types of companies that we support, as far as the specific types of products and services that they offer, it is largely biotech companies, the drug innovators, life science tools companies, data and analytics companies, genomics, medical device, and then a fair amount also on healthcare and clinical services. When you look at the industry companies that we support, there are a couple of elements that are pretty universally true, regardless of the sector. And that is that our clients are primarily startup, early stage, and growth stage companies. They are a lot of them, I would say a high percentage of them are venture capital or private equity backed. But we have a fair number that are also public companies. Many of them have gone public throughout the course of our partnership with them. So that is one element, just that, the stage of company that is fairly consistent in the organizations we support. The second piece that is, again, generally true across the board is that our clients are the most innovative, the most disruptive. They are not Me Too companies. They are leading edge in whatever their focus is. And they are looking to disrupt the market, to change the world, to change healthcare. And so that is the other piece that is pretty consistent in terms of our client base.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely is something that's needed in the overall space, right? That, I mean, and especially at this point in time, I mean, there's a lot of inflection points right now for life sciences, especially, with COVID. There are breakthroughs in terms of, drug development. There are definitely breakthroughs in terms of device development. And so, having leaders that help to support, things as companies evolve is definitely important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so much fun. I mean, what we do is so much fun. It is brutally hard. The competition for talent is unlike anything I've seen since I started in recruiting. It is tighter than ever, making it, just a challenge every day. But it is so fun to see everything that all of our clients are doing, to watch the news and to see that an approval happened, or they got a breakthrough designation, or, and we get to sit back and go, oh my gosh, we were part of building that team. It's just tremendous.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess back to one of the statements that you just made, right? So in terms of finding talent now with COVID and things like that, I've heard that, the job markets are sort of starved for people right now. Are you finding the same thing?
100%. It is the tightest market I have seen since I joined Sloan Partners by a pretty wide margin. It is very, very difficult. There are pretty solid explanations for why that is. And it comes down to the fact that the investment community is very high on life sciences and healthcare in general. There's a lot of money flowing into those markets. And there are a lot of new companies. It seems like I'm reading about a new company every single day. And, the seed funding or Series A funding that they got to advance the mission. And so, with all of these really exciting companies with strong investment teams backing them, there are just a lot of opportunities to be had for the best talent in the industry.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I really, have to respect a lot of the job that teams like yours have to do as well, in terms of finding, especially niche talent that you can't as easily, locate. And then in a tough job market as well, must be, just both exciting as well as challenging at times.
Absolutely. There is never a dull day in recruiting. And I always, say to our team and when people are interviewing with us, it is not for the faint of heart, because our product is people, and people are not like machines. They are not consistent. They don't do the same thing over and over again. They have feelings. Life happens, and like it or not, people will disappoint you and break your heart sometimes. And it happens in recruiting. And so you have to, always have plan A, plan B, plan C. There's just got to be a follow-up action if what you want to happen for one reason or another doesn't.
Yeah. Absolutely. So you co-authored an article in the California Business Journal titled "Encouraging Trends Emerge as Life Science Companies Strive for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion." So what can you tell us about the trends in the DEI space?
Sure. So as I address this question, I do want to back up for a moment and just give you an explanation behind the genesis for that and how it came to be. So, of course, as you might imagine, for a few years now, there's been a lot of discussion around hiring diverse talent, but the last year and a half really, kind of brought that to a head. A lot of discussion, a lot of pressure, a lot of just sort of recognition that things needed to be different and we needed to do something about it. And if you don't do something about it with intention and not let up, it won't happen. And so one of the things that we were seeing in recruiting is a lot more emphasis and conversation around hiring diverse talent, whether that be hiring a female or hiring a person of color. A lot more discussion about that. And what I wasn't hearing is what happens after. So it was all about sort of filling this space, but not discussion about what do you do beyond that to ensure success, to ensure inclusion, to ensure equality. And so actually, it's been almost exactly a year since our executive director of DEI joined us. And a funny story there. So Candace Norte is our executive director of diversity, equity, and inclusion. She is a career educator. She got to be a director of education in a very large school system. And ironically, she used to be my student back in my first life when I was a teacher. And she and I reconnected, and she's just spectacular in every way. And so the impetus for us hiring Candace was that we knew that if we were going to deliver on filling positions with diverse talent, that we needed to also support our clients and the industry in general in educating them about not how to just hire a person, but how to hire a person and create a system internally that supports that person, includes that person, and allows that person to excel. And so that's what Candace's role is. And she and I were together in the co-authorship of that. And that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, so it's interesting to me because I mean, one of the items that I pulled out of this article really was around that same sort of concept, right? This whole idea of having people in a position at a promising startup is fine, but also you have to have things that make them feel welcome as well. And so, what are you seeing that companies are doing to ensure that they have sustainable, inclusive workplace cultures?
So this is where Candace's services come into play. So she's got a lot of engagements going right now with clients in life sciences, as well as an engagement with the Boys and Girls Club of America, where she's doing some consulting for them on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So what we know from these experiences to date is that companies are forming committees. They are, doing more than talking about how they need to hire diverse talent. They are building programs internally. They are holding workshops. They are doing training sessions. They are hosting book clubs. Candace is a very important part for many of our clients in helping them figure out where to start, because that can be the very difficult part of building a DEI program internally, is like, where do you begin? And so she's helping them with that. But there are a lot of companies now that are hiring for that position of truly owning DEI and figuring out how to make it part of the fabric of a company, and not just something that an HR leader is trying to do in his or her spare time, because this is not a spare time job. This is a full-time, with intention, very important part of our future. And so we're seeing a lot more emphasis put around real programs and real people owning those programs.
Wow. So, I mean, it's amazing because I've been in several companies where you see that, all of essentially diversity, equity, and inclusion are definitely a part-time job for, lots of different people. And so to hear of that shift is an amazing, difference, and, should have a big impact overall on the space and the companies that make that shift.
Yes, absolutely. It's exciting. I mean, it feels good to see it happening. It really is very inspiring to see all the conversation that's happening and leaders stepping up and taking a stand and, working toward a better way of creating an industry that reflects reality, that reflects our population. So,
yeah. And then, so with COVID, what have been the biggest challenges that some of your clients have faced in the past year?
yes. So unlike us, most of our clients are not 100% virtual companies for 20 years, right? So the biggest challenge, I think, just in general, was figuring out, what do we do? How do we do this? And who is an essential employee that still has to keep coming to work so that we can keep our labs running and keep the discovery work going, versus who can work remotely, and how do we figure out how to make that feel fair, because it doesn't really feel fair when you've got half the company working from home and half the company reporting into the office every day. And how do you make it safe? And give that confidence that everybody's doing the best that they can and all the right things to protect their peers. And from a hiring standpoint, just the idea of hiring people, especially executive level recruits, without actually shaking hands,
Right.
without being in the same room. That was fascinating to watch that unfold. And it happened. I mean, executives were hired without ever traveling to the location that they were moving to, and going to start reporting into an office that they'd never seen, and have a boss that they'd never met in person, over video, yes, but it's just different. And so figuring out how to be comfortable with that was the biggest twist, I think, for everyone.
And how do you envision that the people fared, right? So do you think things turned out fine, even though, it's unfamiliar? Or do you think that the, not shaking hands or not seeing the office that you're going to report to, caused some sort of a significant gap that we're eventually going to have to deal with in the space?
I don't think it did. I'm sure there are exceptions, but we haven't seen that. And we place a lot of people, and throughout 2020, we placed a lot of people that did not meet in person. And we have not seen any unusual spikes as a result of that. So I don't really think that it created the problem that many might think that it could have or should have created. Americans are tough. They sort of figure it out, and we did. And it was interesting to watch it in real time, because back, I would say, sort of the April-May time period, that was really the only segment of time where we were sort of thinking, okay, what's this all mean? Like, what's going to happen here, and how is it going to impact us and our business? It was like a 2-month period. And then it was pants on fire, because I really think the whole industry went, okay, well, we have a pandemic, and now what do we do? Okay, we do this. And then it was just, everybody back at it, and here we are, and we're still going strong. And that's just, sometimes you just got to figure it out.
Excellent. Yeah. And it, from my standpoint as well, right? I mean, if I rewind the clock back to April, I was saying there's no way we're working from home. There's no way, they're shutting down the highways. And next thing you know, we were working from home, and you had to have, some sort of special letter, at least in Colorado where I'm at, to even be on the highway. So indicate that you were an essential worker having to go to work. And so, I mean, I do feel like we really did figure it out in the last year. So then if I fast forward from April to August, though, then you also wrote another article titled Sustaining the Life Sciences Boom in California. And we certainly saw, a lot of companies shrink their way through the pandemic. What was sort of the inspiration for the article from your perspective? What made you write that article at that point in time?
Yeah, so the main point is, for us as a healthcare and life sciences search firm, California is a critical market for us. And San Francisco, San Diego, and many places in between, it is just a hotbed of innovation and opportunity in life sciences and healthcare. And the main idea, and I stand by this still today, is that I do think that that in these major markets where California is, it's interesting. It's the hardest place to get people to leave, but it's also very challenging to get people to go to California. So within California, it's very important to protect the ecosystem, to create an ecosystem that feeds what you need for the future. And so part of what we were getting at there is the need for connections in academia and STEM programs, and figuring out how to drive talent and a pipeline of talent that can continue to feed this amazing system of opportunities in California. And we're always thinking at things from the talent standpoint, right? We're always thinking about, okay, where are these people going to come from? Because the companies are coming faster than the people are coming. And so the point there is just, trying to get California, the companies, the academic institutions, everybody sort of working together to figure out how to support that growth engine and keep it strong.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I definitely have seen it even in Colorado, because we've seen a lot of people that were in California that for different reasons, decided to leave and join our biotech sector as well. And then, we for sure have different areas across the country, where we could focus things. One of my favorite quotes from the article was that life science leaders must begin to think like investors think. Investors see a clear ROI in those businesses that combine the right technology, vision, and people in their business plan. Is it enough just to have the right technology without a smart game plan and the best leaders to implement it? And I just really enjoyed, that overall quote, out of the article, because I think it really sort of shifts your mind frame from, sort of thinking about the way that you might sort of center your thoughts around, the execution of things, but now thinking, instead of those people that are investing actually in your business and trying to help it grow.
So because we work so much with venture and private equity partners, it has been very educational for me in the last 15 years to better understand how they think. And I've also had the opportunity to be present in different pitch sessions for entrepreneurs that are, coming out of academic discovery environments and so forth, and really hear how they talk about the science, and also hear how the venture and private equity investment community responds with their questions and what they're looking for. And in the end, it's all about the 360 win. Like, do you have it all? Because they really want it all, because it's so much easier to argue for the capital and to make the investment if it's all there, versus a major project, right? And an overhaul of people, and we need all it. And there's always some level of, needing to add a CFO, or maybe you have a scientific founder who really doesn't want to be the CEO, wants to be the CSO or the CTO, and then you need to bring in a CEO that can, grow the organization, get the product ready, bring the company to a commercial state. It's just been fascinating to learn how the minds of the investors work and what they're looking for when they evaluate technology.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for Sloan Partners, what are some of the goals that you're working on for your clients in 2021?
Sure. So just in general, I'll make a blanket statement that diversity is at the forefront of everyone's minds. So I truly don't think that I have a single new business or launch call where that conversation doesn't happen. So that in and of itself is a big part of the discussion, whether it is around planning for diversity, strategic, thinking around how to attract diverse talent, or actually doing the recruiting work. That's far and away at the top of the list. Okay. Now, beyond that, I would say there are a few key positions that are just really tough and on everybody's minds right now. One of them is finance leaders, chief financial officers, and our clients are, always looking for sort of one of two profiles: either the person that can lead the IPO, or the person that can lead the capital raises and take a company through Series A, B, C, whatever the needs are, the plan is. That is an area of high demand. So supporting their needs and identifying financial leaders is huge. CEOs also, because there's so many exciting companies that they just need the right leaders to get them to the promised land. So a lot of C-suite work, a tremendous amount of board searches. So again, going back to the diversity point, there's a law in California, and there will be other laws in other states about diversity. And so clients are preparing for that. Now, public companies, there are mandates for public companies in certain areas, but private companies are planning for it, because they know that, if they get to the place they want to be as a public company, they need to be ready for that. So those are a lot of the big projects for us right now.
Absolutely. Very important work. So there are 3 questions that I like to ask every guest. What inspires you?
So I think this is a very timely question, given that the Olympics are going on right now. And that is that I am always inspired by the underdog, like the person that just gives it their best and comes from behind and is successful. Like that brings me to tears. I love it. There's nothing that makes me happier than seeing that. And with that comes just people who are committed to excellence and delivering excellence in whatever they do. That inspires me.
Yeah, it's been great to watch. I normally, watch my last few minutes before I get ready for bed. I try and, take a peek at how we're doing in the Olympics. And, it certainly has been a challenge for them to try and get over to Japan and compete. So I'm glad that it's even happening. What concerns you?
So I'll break this out into 2, one personal and one professional. So on the, I'll start with the professional. On that side, just because of the business that we are in, I always worry about what's around the corner as it relates to the economy and will it stay strong and, all of those sorts of things. So those are things that I it's just part of leading a company and, being involved in a space that, over the course of history can be volatile at times, investment and such. So that, is something I think about. On the personal side, I would have to say what concerns me is living in a time where I see a a lot of arrogance and intolerance and impatience just in general. And I wish that people could slow down, think things through very carefully, and before putting, certain things out in the universe. I just would like to see a little more of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very important, especially whenever, I mean, sometimes, you could be your own worst enemy and, just push a button a little too quickly.
Yes.
So what excites you?
Well, so what excites me about the field that I'm in is that I am amazed every single day by the work that our clients do. It is mind-blowing, the brilliance in the exchanges that I'm able to have with people. And I have learned so much about so many things because of the amazing minds that are part of the client organizations that we support. So what excites me is, all of the breakthroughs, all of the innovations, and the fact that I get to watch this play out, and I get to, look for the press releases, and someone that we placed is quoted in a press release about an approval through the FDA, or, it's amazing. So those are things that I just can't get enough of. It makes me so happy.
Has to make you feel, a part of it as well, right? In placing the talent there. So yeah, I would agree. It would have to feel tremendous to feel like you're having an impact in terms of the minds that are working in the space. So
Yes.
Leslie Loveless, thank you so much today for spending time with me. I greatly appreciated the opportunity to speak with you, and I wish you all the best at Sloan Partners.
Thank you so much, Don. It's been my pleasure.
All right.